Another edition of Picks and Roll coming your way. Sean Barnard, all things Sixers insider for the gambler, and of course, NBA as a whole. I am Sean Brace, off and running here on a Thursday. One more sleep to the weekend. And a good afternoon, Sean Barnard. How we doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm surviving. I think the reality check that the Sixers have got these past two games, so it feels like the city of Philadelphia coming back down to earth a little bit after the start to the season. But as much as people want to hit the panic button, if you told me after 11 games, Sixers sitting at 8-3 with one win over the Celtics already, feeling okay right now. So not the end of the world.
I don't think we need to go any further. I think you nailed it right there. The funny thing was, it did feel very similar after last night. And, the Pacers loss, you got to lump the two together, as you said. And it's
Mhm.
like, woo, snapping the fingers. There it is. Tobias can't finish at the rim. Joel Embiid with the minus 25 last night. He's not good enough to get it done. Nick Nurse, what? You know, we're having some fun with that, but it wasn't the best game of basketball played by the 76ers yesterday. And I think there's a couple of reasons. We're going to dive into those right here. We got two games we're going to get into from the DraftKings Sportsbook card this evening in the NBA. We got some big picture things to get into, including some suspensions from the leagues. I also want to get, as you pointed out, only 11 games into the season, an early look at possibly some MVP sway from you, Sean Barnard. But let's jump in right into the 76ers and what we saw last night. But before the game was played, I want to get your thoughts on the recent, or I guess the latest in the Kelly Oubre saga that is where he ends up with a broken rib. Police come out with the report. People are kicking on doors, asking questions. Police say, we have no knowledge of any video. I don't think they said anything out of line. They just said, sorry, we don't have any video of the incident.
Mhm.
Where are you taking this now? Of course, the ring footage gets released. I would assume somebody from Ubre's camp released that.
Yeah.
Kind of made him look better, in my opinion. Like, whoa, everyone relax, calm down. But where are you at right now with the whole Sixers, the way they have handled it, coming out with the statement? Of course, you got 6ABC Annie McCormick before the game, her and Howard Eskin double teaming Nick Nurse. And I know you put a video out where it's like, damn, all this guy wanted to do is come back and coach some basketball, and he gets thrown into the heart of nonsense, and now this. But,
Yeah.
this is what you got to deal with professional athletes. Where are you at with the Kelly Oubre stuff?
Yeah, it's very weird. Feels like it could only happen to the Sixers that for the first time in forever, we have a high level, playable, versatile wing on a minimum contract. And he goes and hypothetically seems like he gets hit by a car. I mean, I think everyone's reading into it a little too much. The conspiracy theories are running wild. I do think the ring doorbell footage helps him. It doesn't necessarily prove anything, but I do think putting my tinfoil hat and trying to pull through this is that Ubre's team or agent probably saw kind of what was being run around and thrown around online with some really bad things that he was kind of being tied to, and then dropped this, which at least makes his story makes more sense. Like there very much is a likely world where he could have gotten hit by a car, gone back to his house. His wife looks at him and says, "You need to go to the hospital." And then he can't pinpoint exactly where he got hit because he's been living in Philadelphia for less than 2 months now. So there is definitely a world where this makes sense. And I think the ring footage does help him, besides the fact that it is a little creepy that is out there and able to be had, I guess. But the bottom line is I do think it helps him. And I also I've seen some people talking about it weird him being on a bike. He's very much like an avid dirt bike and BMX biker. Like that's one of his off-season habits.
Love it.
Yeah, he's very open about that. So not that I recommend ripping that thing through Center City if that's what went down, but I that doesn't shock me, and I do think that's an element, and especially with when you talk about just kind of piecing the story together, I do think that makes sense. So let's not jump to too many conclusions. I'm sure there'll be more, and I definitely feel bad for Nick Nurse because he probably knows about the same as much as the rest of us.
Yeah, he just wants to go out there and coach. Look, Ubre's 27 years old. Well, people talking smack about him on a bike. What are they talking about? First of all, I wish the city was more friendly for bikes because
Yeah.
the city sucks as a whole driving around, finding parking. It's just, I say this tongue in cheek, but just outlaw parking. Find us out spots to park on the outskirts of the city. And then if you're going to go to the city, walk or catch, trolleys or pick up those bikes that you can rent. That's number one. Number two, I actually rode a bike around a city a few years ago, probably a decade ago, when I lived in the Fairmount section, close. I lived on Girard Avenue. People always yelled at me when I said it was Fairmount. But anyways, riding a bike in the city, man, take some stones because it's nuts. Like they just don't care. I remember going around City Hall and like just running out of room. I was in this one lane and it ran out. Like, stupid stuff does happen. And I saw a friend of mine post on Twitter where he was riding his bike and a cab opened up the door. Somebody was getting out of the cab and he ran right into it and the cab was ready to pull off. So, I mean, these things do happen. It's just crazy how much of a life these rumors have taken on. And for a lack of a better term, we got these people out there that follow all things crime in Philadelphia, and they do it with definitely a side. I'll just put it that way. I don't think anyone with a brain would say different. And it's just like, dude, what is going on? Right? Like, everyone just relax here. This happened. It's not the end of the world. I highly doubt anything crazy happened. The conspiracy theories that I was hearing that, I went out for a little bit last night and people were talking about this and I'm like, what? Like, what's the matter with you people? It's not they were believing it, but they were saying it and then regurgitating. And I'm just like, you guys are way deeper than I am in this one. Again, he's a ball player. He plays for the Sixers. They came out with the statement. It's a big deal over the weekend. ESPN headlines. I have no issues with anybody asking the questions, but when you start talking about domestic violence and then this and then that, I need a little bit more than this is what I'm hearing. That's all.
Yeah. The domestic stuff, I think, is especially kind of reckless to just be throwing out with any sort of evidence there, because that's a huge accusation to throw against anybody. And there's nothing really suggesting that is the case to this point until there's something like that. If I have to put on, like, once again, my tinfoil hat and think about what could have happened here, there's a lot that I just don't want to even acknowledge as far as rumors. But one thing that I do think that I haven't really seen brought up as like a logical answer, and I don't know this to be true or have any info on this, is I do see a world where maybe he's not supposed to be riding his BMX bike in his contract, and that he did get hurt riding that if he took it to a skate park or something and then went with the car accident theory. I hope that's not the case. And frankly, like, as we mentioned, it's incredibly likely that a bike rider could get hit by a car in Philadelphia. So we're not ruling that out whatsoever. I'm still giving him the benefit of the doubt that is the most likely case, but I do see a world where that is a possibility as well. So we'll see how it all ties out. And on the good side of things from a basketball perspective is there's an update from Woj last night that it's looking
Give it to us.
Only 2 weeks, and then Kelly Oubre should be back. So considering what we were first talking about, like months, extended period of times, they're targeting the end of November for him to get back on the court, which is a big deal for the Sixers team because they absolutely miss him on the court.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that, right? Like, let's just move off from the situation off the floor and let's get onto the floor. Of course, last night lost to the Boston Celtics, second time matching up, and just a weird game. Will Joel Embiid play? Won't he play? He plays. I didn't think he was going to suit up. So I was already like in my mind that the Boston Celtics were going to win this game. And then, of course, Boston goes into battle without Porzingis. And who else missed the game from Boston last night?
Jaylen Brown.
Thank you.
Brown.
Yeah, kind of a big player. So it's like, and then I'm like confused and I'm just saying, want nothing to do with this game from a gambling standpoint. We watched it in its entirety. Of course, we had a little bit on the over 110 for the Sixers, plus 114 for the Celtics. I just want to know part of this game just because I was wondering who the hell was playing and who wasn't, and got the vibe. But at the end of the game, what did come to my mind was that they need a little bit more. And then you're reminded, oh, that's right, Kelly Oubre is on this team. So he's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. And Nick Batum. Nick Batum wasn't there last night as well. Those are two guys that they were short wing depth in a major way last night. Both those guys are going to be 25 plus minute per game guys for the Sixers team throughout the year when they're both fully there. Batum, I thought, would have been especially helpful from last night from an entry pass standpoint. Sixers really struggled just getting the ball to Joel, just getting him on the block, finding spots. Part of that was the Celtics defense, but a lot of that was the Sixers just being unable to execute. And it's also becoming more and more clear how much this team is lacking a secondary ball handler. Patrick Beverley played probably the worst game that he's played as a Sixer last night. It looks like they're taking those playmaking responsibilities off D'Anthony Melton's shoulders, trying to give them to Pat Bev, which Melton's not built as a playmaker for sure. And I think he's playing better since he's been allowed to just kind of be a spot-up shooter, focus on defense, and play more of his natural basketball. But I don't really think Patrick Beverley is good enough at it at this point in his career either. So they do have to figure that out. Jaden Springer provided a nice lift last night. He really came in and changed the game with his energy. That's something that I think could show some effects moving forward. But yeah, this team's short a little something. And then schematically, I thought the Celtics exposed some real stuff. As far as 3-pointers last night, Celtics attempting 50 3-pointers, and the Sixers Celtics shot 18 for 50 from three. The Sixers were just 11 of 30 from three. So when you're giving up 20 more 3-point attempts, you're just not going to win that game. And this is becoming a theme with the Sixers team. The night before against the Pacers shot 13 of 37 from three. Sixers from 6 of 22 from three. So you just in today's NBA have to be somewhat in the vicinity of matching that total, and being outshot at that margin is a huge concern.
You're right about that, boss. From the Sixers standpoint, just looking at the box score a little bit more, Maxey finishes with 20. Tobias, 6 of 12. He finishes with 16. The big man finished with 20, 8 of 16. Again, no Porzingis, minus 25. I was texting you. I lied. I did get involved in a live action. Won't lie about that. Ended up donating $50 to DraftKings, took a shot at plus 270. I went out last night to watch the second half. So got a little caught up in the mojo. The Sixers made a push. I think they cut it to 2, maybe 1. And I'm like, ooh, they might win this game. I took it when they were down by 7, I think, at plus 270, or down by 5 at plus 270. Bad bet. Ended up losing. Oh, well. Should have just trusted my gut from the beginning. Don't touch it. But I'm texting you and I'm going, dude, is Embiid hurt? Like, what's going on? And Paul Reed was in there for an extended period, and he had, some pretty good production on the floor. I'm not a big plus minus guy. Should I be?
I think it's an overrated stat in general. Last night, I thought it was pretty on the money as far as how it looked. Joel Embiid with a minus 25 in a game the Sixers lost by 10 it's a really bad sign, and that's traditionally just the opposite of the problem that we've had with Joel, but that is telling. He showed that, and on the opposite end there, Paul Reed plus 15 in 14 minutes of play. I thought it was the best Paul Reed game we've seen so far this year. His energy and his athleticism really shined against a Celtics team which kind of lacks that athleticism at the big man position when he's out rebounding guys like Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett and guys like that at the block, even Al Horford. Paul Reed's just much more active then, so he did a nice job getting some offensive rebounds, stirring up things and creating some havoc. But Joel is just kind of a lazy effort start to finish last night. I was real disappointed in that. The turnovers, it felt like he had more. I believe he's only credited with 2 on the game, but it felt like way more than that. And just his effort and energy level. And it's really frustrating now, 7 years into his NBA career. We've been doing this for a decade where it's been Al Horford has been his worst enemy, whether it's in a Sixers uniform or a Celtics uniform. He's constantly the Joel Embiid worst enemy. And it's really frustrating. Like the amount of times that he was able to just kind of poke the ball out from Joel or interrupt his flow. It's just really frustrating that we're still at that point in his career. Like this is the MVP of the league. You do this against far better defenders than Al Horford. No disrespect to him. He's a good defender for sure. But Joel just should not be like hitting a standstill against a guy like that.
Al Horford, when he played for the 76ers, did he ever hit a big shot? Did he ever hit a 3-pointer? Did he do anything when he played for the 76ers other than occupy a space on the roster with a pretty good contract? And, man, I still can't believe that Morey was able to get out of that deal. But ever since then, and even before he joined the Sixers, like this dude is a straight-up Sixer killer. The way that Chase Utley owned the Mets, the way that Chipper Jones owned the Mets, Al Horford owns us. Is that fair?
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And I don't want there to be any revisionist history of he was bad as a Philadelphia 76er. He was terrible for the team. He was benched for Furkan Korkmaz, and the team got better during that period of time. And then here we are like 5 years later, and he's just killing the Sixers on the Celtics once again. He blew a kiss to Joel Embiid last night after his last 3. That's probably up there in one of my most hated athletes ever. And his sister on Twitter just makes it all the worst. And she was active last night, letting Philadelphia hear about it. So, yeah, not an Al Horford fan whatsoever. And it's very frustrating that, like, this is still a problem in the year 2023.
All right. So, from the Sixers loss to the Boston Celtics, once again, Celtics ended up covering that number, 110 to 107. Next game up for the 76ers is against the Atlanta Hawks, if I'm not mistaken. And the game will be played.
Tournament.
Oh, it is. So it's Thursday or Friday in-season tournament against Atlanta?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. On the road in Atlanta. Atlanta so far this season, 6-5, 4-7 ATS, 7-4 to the over. So a lot of points to be expected in that game coming up on Friday. Any final thoughts on last night's Sixers Celtics game?
I mean, I think it's gonna look better when they get Oubre and Batum back. They just miss those guys that you can see their short bodies, and we're seeing guys like Marcus Morris. I want to be a pro Marcus Morris guy. I know he's a North Philly guy, very good for the community, very good for the city, but he's just cooked as basketball player at this point in his career. Brings really nothing on either side of the floor. The fact that Nurse went back to him in the second half yesterday, I was real disappointed for. He ended up playing a total of 8 minutes on the night, but the two stints, 0 for 3 from three, or 0 for 2 from 3, 0 for 3 from the field, one turnover, a minus 16 in 8 minutes. Yeah, it was bad for Morris. I don't need to see any more of that. I do think Jaden Springer did himself a favor last night. Looked really good guarding Tatum, had 2 steals on him, hit a corner 3. So I think Springer made an impact, and that's a guy that could have some long-term effects as far as the rotation moving forward. So that was probably the biggest sign of life. But yeah, there are some changes that need to be done schematically because the defense is not clicking the way it was to start the year.
All right, Sean Barnard, Sean_Barnard1 is where you can find him on socials. We'll keep it moving and get around the association. First things first, we'll get to the Warriors. They're playing tonight. They'll be without Steph Curry, I believe, still, and Draymond Green. Draymond Green suspended 5 games for putting Rudy Gobert in a full Nelson headlock. That's great. I know where you stand because I'm right in agreement with you because I saw your socials. Yeah, like he saw Rudy Gobert and he jumped right at him. Nobody likes Rudy Gobert. We know that.
Yeah.
But as far as Draymond Green catching 5, too many games, where do you stand?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's too many at all. I even wouldn't have had an issue if they pushed it farther than that. I saw some people overreacting that 5 was too many. I wouldn't have had any issue if they threw a 10-game suspension at him for this. And it's less about this specific act, which was definitely out of control and insane, but more about the fact that this is every year, multiple times a year, Draymond doing something. And he's really been out of control these past couple games. He was beefing with Ant Edwards against the Timberwolves. Since the Cavs game, he's really just been kind of like playing street basketball, not NBA basketball. And it's frustrating for Draymond Green specifically is when he plays his best ball, when he locks in and just focuses on hoops, he's a very good player, that he helps the team a ton. Defensively, he's huge. But the amount of distractions and constant headlines and things like that that are always going to surround him, like, I think a lot of people are just sick of it. So I'm glad the NBA handed him something. And yeah, I honestly wouldn't have an issue if they had pushed this suspension further.
Tonight doesn't get any easier for them. They're losers of 4 straight.
Yeah.
And they're taking on Oklahoma City, who's 7-4 this season, 8-3 ATS. They got back-to-back victories over the Phoenix Suns and a lumping of the San Antonio Spurs, 123-87. This game is being played in Golden State. You'd like to think that championship mentality could dig deep here, but this is a wounded squad right now. It's 2.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. OKC favored 10 p.m. tip. Total coming in at 26.5 now, down 2 from 228. If you had a lean, if you had to give me a play in this one, are we looking at OKC here? Is there anything pushing you towards Golden State?
Yeah, I think OKC is the play, that they've turned into a really solid basketball team, playing connective hoops on the same page. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be the best player on the floor tonight, which isn't often said when a Warriors team is facing that. But I do think Shai is that dude. He's one of the top guys in the NBA, a top 15 talent for sure at this point in his career and only getting better. So I think he does take control. And then Chet Holmgren's been spectacular. Jalen Williams continues to take another leap. Our guy Isaiah Joe getting a little burn out there. Casey Wallace is awesome. So this Thunder team is deep. They're good. They're solid. I do think they come in here and take care of business. And from the Warriors side of things, they're still kind of just like a get me a ticket to the dance and I'll make my way in from there kind of team that they're going to float through this regular season. They went into the playoffs as a 6 seed last year and then beat the Kings in the first round, who are 3 seeds. So I don't think the Warriors are all that caught up in the regular season still, even though, you obviously still have to get there, but they're going to be fine by the end of the season. They'll have a run in them come playoff time, but tonight's the game I think they kind of punt.
And Steph is 100% out so far. It's day to day. I'm seeing. Have you seen anything that he's out for this evening?
I believe when I checked earlier, he was listed as out with the knee injury. So unless that changed, but I believe he's not playing.
Okay. Well, for folks that are pressing send on some wagers, just to let you know, of course, he hurt himself on Sunday, missed Tuesday's game. It says day to day, but of course, that game's going off at 10. So we still got some time if nothing is official. The other game on the NBA card this evening, red hot Miami Heat, winners of 6 straight, going up against the Brooklyn Nets, who are winners of 2 straight. No Ben Simmons in this one. He's hurt. I don't know. I was saying to my wife the other day, I was like, I don't want to, because I know what a bad back is.
Yeah.
It sucks. And it don't matter who you are. You could be Tiger Woods, as we have found out over the years, back surgery. You could be the top dog in whatever professional sport you want to be in. If you have a bad back, man, it just sucks. And apparently that's what Ben Simmons has. I think it's all right for us to second guess some things as far as, the will to get back out there. But a bad back is a bad back, and I feel for the guy. Anyways, he's not going tonight. The players that will be out there, of course, is Bam Adebayo and company from Miami, and you know that they're going to be able to bring a world of problems to Brooklyn. I do like Bridges. There's a lot to like about Brooklyn, and I like Jacques Vaughn a lot.
Yeah.
I would be interested in this game from a standpoint of just being a fan. I think Brooklyn could go down there and actually get the win tonight. 3.5 for Miami. I'm going to pull up the money line here on DraftKings Sportsbook for Brooklyn. Where do you stand on this one, Sean?
Yeah, I probably lean Brooklyn as well. I actually like that team and think a lot more than the consensus that I think they're going to be, they'll be a tough out in the playoffs for wherever they match up. But I do think they're going to end up like in that 7 to 8 seed range, possibly even a little higher. I can see them climbing as high as 5 or 6. But they are a sneaky talented team. Mikal Bridges is the real deal. It seems like he's really bought in on building up Brooklyn and wanting to attract a star there, which is cool. But I do like this team. Jaime Jaquez has been awesome for the Heat, so he's been fun to watch. But I do lean the Nets in this one.
Me too. I'm right there with you on that one. They're plus 136 on the money line, so that might actually be an official play a little bit later this evening. Only 2 games on the NBA card and one heck of a Thursday night football game. Sean Barnard, before we get out of here, I need a play on that one from you, sir. We got the Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, a big AFC North battle going down in Baltimore. The 3.5-point spread on DraftKings Sportsbook, 46.5 is your total on this one. And always remember those primetime games, just stay to the under. Where you stand on this one, Sean, tonight?
Yeah, I've bounced back and forth on this. I was pretty high on the Ravens, flashing back to like a week or two ago that I was considering them probably my biggest or my favorite team out of the AFC to potentially come out of it. But I think I'm taking Cincinnati on this one. Both these teams coming off tough losses. Both got to pick themselves off the mat. I think I just feel good about Joe Burrow kind of being the guy that bounces back, leading this team through. I think it's going to be a tight game. So I like the plus 3.5 just to take that little wiggle room. It could come down to a field goal, but I'm leaning Cincinnati on this one.
Going head to head with you. I'll take Baltimore.
Okay.
I'd like to give it 3. Could I buy the half of a point and then we go an orange Gatorade, 3-point spread?
All right. I'm good with that. Yeah.
All right. 3. We'll go 3. I'll give you 3. Orange Gatorade. You owe me one, so it's double or nothing. All right. Rapid fire. Let's close it up. 60 seconds on the clock. A couple NBA quick ones coming your way. You ready?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right. Regular season MVP Joker at the top. Luka plus 450. JoJo plus 750. Tatum plus 750. If you had to give it to one of those players so far through 11 games, who are you giving it to?
Yeah, not my guy, but I think it's unfortunately Jokic. I think he's on the track for winning it again.
Any shot Victor Wembanyama has somebody in the clubhouse with them as far as Rookie of the Year award?
Chet. I'm still think Chet's right there in the running. You look at the efficiency numbers. Chet's been more efficient this year, playing on a better team with the Thunder, and statistically they're pretty neck and neck with a lot of stuff, with the block shots, with the rebound, with the scoring. So I do think it's going to come down to Chet and Wemby, but I'm not counting Chet out yet.
Scoot all the way up to 70-1. Chet Holmgren plus 350. Victor minus 350. Most improved player. If it's not Tyrese Maxey, who is it through 11 games for you?
Ooh, I definitely think it's Tyrese Maxey. So beyond that, that's tough.
I'll give you the rest of the card. It's Scotty Barnes 600, Cam Thomas 10-1, and Cade Cunningham 18-1.
Okay. I would probably go Cade as my next favorite play there. Cade's been really good this year. Most improved is probably the toughest one for me to put my finger on just because the definition so bizarre with this. Like, I think from the Sixers side of things, Maxey should have been above the qualifying players last year, but it does feel like this year is where he's getting the national attention, and he deserves it. So Maxey, the surefire favorite, but I would throw Cade number 2 there.
2 more. 6th man of the year. Do you have a play through 11 games? Hardaway Jr. 5-1. Emmanuel Quickly 6-1. Cam Thomas 9-1. Chris Paul 9-1. Malik Monk 11-1.
I like Malik Monk for this. I think this one's good that we're going to see a lot of turnover. I'm curious where Chris Paul ends up in that rotation with Golden State. I still think they're playing with some things, so there's a chance he ends up a starter. But I could see Chris Paul being the play from a national standpoint if he does accept the 6-man role and helps this Warriors team. So that this one I think is still very open. Malik Monk is my personal preference.
Final 2. Will the Lakers make the playoffs? Yes or no? Yes, minus 250. No, plus 195 on DraftKings.
Yeah, they absolutely will. I'm not as high on them as a whole, but I don't see any world where they don't make the playoffs.
And staying in LA, will the LA Clippers make the playoffs? Yes, minus 145. No, plus 120.
Yeah, I'm not as confident on this one, but I still think yes. I still think there's too much talent there for them to not figure things out and at least win enough games to get in. And they're another team that, depending on matchup, is going to be a tough out in the playoffs. So that's kind of their ticket in, is they just need to get there and then figure out who they're playing. But there's certain teams where, even with their concerns stylistically and the way they're playing, the Clippers are going to be a tough matchup for a lot of teams. So not counting them out yet, and I do think they're a playoff team.
25 minutes in and out. Picks and roll with Sean Barnard. Sean, final thoughts on anything NBA related, sir?
Yeah, we're starting to hit the stride of the season now that we're through the first, I guess, like honeymoon period, things kicking off. So now we're into what teams are, figuring out which teams are legit, and starting to see how the tide separates a little here. So good to see the Sixers sitting at 8-3, still in a comfortable spot, even with those back-to-back losses. Hopefully Friday they can get back in the win column and a tournament game. So who knows? It might mean a little more to everybody.
All right. Great stuff as always. Be sure to follow Sean at Sean_Barnard1 for all things NBA and Sixers. He does it all, though, including gives you a little wager on Thursday Night Football. Good luck to you and your Cincinnati Bengals, who ended up costing me my survivor pool last week.
Yeah, that was tough one.
Yeah, that's all right. Picks and Roll is available, as all of our podcasts are, over at foxphlgambler.com.